Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow With Us. My name is Evan Barton, and I'm your host who helps create conversations with the innovators and leaders of a growing tech center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Grow With Us podcast highlights the work of community leaders, tech entrepreneurs, nonprofit professionals, and talent development advocates in Tulsa. Grow With Us is a podcast of In Tulsa. In Tulsa's mission is to connect talented individuals and companies to stimulate economic growth in Tulsa and to create more prosperous communities across the region. Each episode, Grow With Us discusses the growth of opportunities, the growth of communities striving for change, or the tech and innovation that is changing the landscape of Tulsa. On this episode of Grow With Us, we are talking to Robby Hedrick, the Director of Transition Services at the Coffee Bunker Tulsa. Robby and I talk more about the Coffee Bunker Tulsa, the veteran experience more broadly, and how Tulsa and the Coffee Bunker aim to connect veterans to essential resources like professional guidance for education, employment, and entrepreneurship. Welcome to another episode of Grow With Us. I'm really excited to welcome to the show today Dr. Robby Hedrick. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited for this conversation and all the things we're going to get to talk about serving the veteran population and the nonprofit community here in Tulsa. And Dr. Robby, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really an honor on my part. I've seen your podcast for quite some time and just really enjoy what you guys do to highlight the community within Tulsa. It's a privilege for me to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, we love fans. Honestly, that is such a high praise for someone that does this and sometimes feels like it's going into a void, but to know that it's not. And this was an outreach that came through someone on my team as well, that you had been impacted by the podcast or had listened to it in some way. And that I just want to start with gratitude because that means so much to me. And we don't just do this for nothing. We do this to highlight stories. We do this to talk about communities. And I'm really excited to hear more about your community that you represent and what you're working towards. So let's hear a little bit more about your story. Do you mind introducing yourself to our audience and telling us your story in whatever way you're comfortable?
Sure. So back up to a little bit. I'm with the Coffee Bunker, which is a veteran service organization. So by default, I am a veteran. I was in the Air Force for 4 years and then the Army for 4 years, made that transition both as enlisted and officer. In 2015, we decided it was time to get out. We were in law enforcement, so me and my wife and my kids. We had enough of playing soldier, and my wife told me it was time to do something different. And so being native Oklahomans, we said wherever or whoever gets the first job, that's where we're going to stake our claim, and that's where we're going to move to. And that was in 2015. So in 2015, my wife gets a job up here. She's a social worker, so we moved to Tulsa. So being, like I said, native Oklahoma, I'm from southern Oklahoma, so Tulsa was not even on my radar. Obviously, I know where it is, but I'd been here 2 or 3 times up to that. So we came here in 2015 and have just loved it. And ever since then, trying to get more involved in our community and have a bigger impact and just really make a positive influence. Part of that journey was me joining Leadership Tulsa a couple of years ago.
Awesome.
And one of the things of completing that program is you get the opportunity to do a board internship. Mm-hmm. Through that board internship, I was placed with the Coffee Bunker, which I didn't know was a saying at that time. Did my board internship, love the mission, love what they do, helping veterans in transition. And then 2 or 3 years later, I stayed in contact with them, Dr. Michael Horn and others there. And they helped me with advice and mentorship as we went along the way. And then this past year, 2023, I had the opportunity to come back on staff. And so I'm back in full circle.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got to Tulsa and how I got involved with the Coffee Bunker.
That's amazing. I didn't know there was a Leadership Tulsa connection there. That's really awesome. We're big fans over here on Grow With Us of Leadership Tulsa. And I'm pretty sure that program's called Get On Board, right? I think that's the name of the program, or maybe it's something else.
So I did Leadership 360, which was the program that I went through. But I know they have a host of other programs that they do as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, actually, Leadership Tulsa and that connection over there, Marcia Bruno-Todd, who's the executive director, was one of the people that introduced me to Jesse. And also Jesse, we're talking about him because he's in the room. But yeah, it was a big part of him getting into podcasting too. So there's lots of LT connections for why people that are in the community are doing what they're doing now. It's
Exactly.
because of something like LT that is, kind of inspiring people and giving them the tools to do that. So that's amazing that that's a part of your story as well.
Yeah.
How are the kids and the wife like in Tulsa?
Oh, they love it. I always say, so when I went to school, I went to Empire, Oklahoma, which no one's ever heard of, right? I graduated with about 32 people. So my kids, when we got up here, they went to Broken Arrow, which is the largest high school in Oklahoma, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe still is. And so I would drop them off at the front door. And then that first week, I kept getting notifications that they're late for class. I was like, how is this possible? Like, I'm literally dropping you off. So you're either messing around or doing something, talking to your friends. And this is unacceptable, right? Well, after the first week, I called the counselor. I was like, hey, what am I doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Well, it turned out, Broken Arrow is like a mini college campus. If you guys haven't been there, seen it.
Yes.
So I was dropping them off at the front door, but their class was all the way at the other end of the campus. And then so I was like, oh, sorry, guys. That's my fault.
That was Dad's fault.
Yeah, my bad.
That's funny.
But just the vastly different, going from where we're from to here.
Yeah.
But they're loving it. They love the opportunities and the people they've met. Just awesome. Experiences they wouldn't have otherwise. So they're enjoying it, and my wife loves it up here. So much so that my in-laws moved up here.
I've heard that story so many times. Too.
Really?
Yes. Someone's family also comes with them when they I guess strike gold in Tulsa with just the community and things working for them. It's like, let's bring other people here too.
So we're all here now, enjoying it and loving every moment.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. Yeah, I've shared a little bit with you like about my story and stuff, but I also kind of came from, I would say, smaller town, humble beginnings in a way, if you will. But like Muskogee, Oklahoma is a little bit like a suburb of Tulsa. I think that Muskogee people would not like me saying that because it's 45 minutes away, but it's like Muskogee is a small town compared to Tulsa being a big city with small town amenities. Like there's a definite like jump in size and scale and distance and all those things. And I think your example is perfect at explaining that, I'm dropping my kid off at the front of the school. Why is it taking them 20 minutes to walk? Well, it's probably because the campus is, 2 square miles or whatever, like distance wise. And that campus is huge. It's really, really
so
big.
Huge, so spread out. But great school. We love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so good to hear. And, and you said that earlier, a part of your Tulsa experience specifically started in 2015. Sure. We're at 9 years from that, which is crazy. What have you kind of seen change in Tulsa over time? Like what has been anything that's been remarkable for you and kind of the way that the city has changed or the way it's changed in your orbit?
Yeah. So I would say, 2015 sounds like a long time, but in the grand scheme of cities and cultures changing, it really isn't.
Yeah.
What I have seen change in my small world and sphere of influence is the willingness of the people of Tulsa to go out of their way to help others, right? We had the pandemic and different challenges that came with it and the ability to resource and help those in need.
Yeah.
And I was able to really see the community pull together to do their best to serve those in need and help those.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Tulsa did it in many, many other ways, but what directly affected me and what I was able to see was that aspect, which again just instills a sense of pride of the community that we have and the people of Tulsa.
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo that in so many ways. Just growing up here, I feel like there was a shift for me. When I left Tulsa, it was in 2016 and all the way up until 2020. And so kind of that noticing those differences, it was like you came here and I left, and then we came back at the same time, or I came back kind of when there was that shift that you're talking about, and that is absolutely something I noticed as well. I think mostly because I was interacting with the city or intending to interact with the city in a different way than I ever had. 18-year-old college kid or whatever isn't necessarily, well, some of them are, but me as an 18-year-old college kid wasn't necessarily like looking to get involved in the business community or the nonprofit community. And, I still had some growing to do. And so once I was ready for that and once the opportunity to come back was kind of forced upon me through the pandemic, I think that was the first thing I noticed too. Even amidst, something that's affecting all of us globally, something that no one really knew how to handle. I mean, we're in right now in 2024, still dealing with kind of the effects, the aftershocks of COVID. There's still things going on. But I noticed the city change, and I think when we say the city, it's so broad, but I think that if I were to point to anything specifically, it's probably the nonprofit spaces that have, increased their outreach, or, really kind of folded in so that they could think about and strategize how to branch out and reach people in a different way. And I know that that's something that has affected you kind of through what you've said. And also you said that there was a big part of this like nonprofit space that you saw kind of come alive, or you saw how it has affected the communities that you work in right now. And I'd love for you to kind of talk about that too. What has kind of surprised you about like the nonprofit network in Tulsa?
Sure. And, Evan, one of the things I think too is, crisis reveals leadership and the quality of leadership. Yeah. And I think, again, it revealed the class of Tulsa. And I think too often we associate that with our formal leaders, our elected officials and things like that. And they did their job well too. But really the informal leaders, the guys behind the scenes that are really helping out and doing things that don't get the credit and the recognition that would be in the papers and stuff like that, really stepped up. So leadership at all levels. I don't want it to seem like just the top people that we associate as leaders, but the guys that are running podcasts to highlight the resources, the people that are helping and doing the work, the civic organizations, the churches and all that. So I do want to let them know that I appreciate them. Yeah. One of the things that I have really noticed, and I apologize, I'm going to get some water.
Oh, you're good.
Is the ability of different groups and organizations to collaborate with one another.
Yeah.
So again, I'm in the nonprofit world serving veterans, but, and there's other groups, veteran service organizations and other nonprofits. I was really pleasantly surprised at the ability to complete one another rather than compete with one another.
Yeah.
And I say that because a lot of our organizations rely on scholarships or grants or donations and the generosity of the people of Tulsa. But also we're willing to help each other. And so one of the examples that I know recently was Sadie of Osho, which is a nonprofit that helps people that are unable to afford medical equipment, get on wheelchairs, walkers, things like that. Recently made another food donation to the Coffee Bunker, right? Awesome. And then previously, we've worked with other organizations, whether it be to resource kids with toys for Christmas or help other organizations, and even partnering with Leadership Tulsa. Just that willingness to collaborate and work together has really surprised me and just impressed me to no end that we also want to help each other.
Yeah.
Right. So when there's something that I can't do or I can assist in any way, we're fully willing to help another organization or another group, and it's vice versa.
Yeah.
So really been a fantastic experience with all the groups of Tulsa.
Yeah, I think the spirit of reciprocity is a theme that we've touched on in so many ways in this podcast. But I think it's always welcome to hear, because we're hearing about it as in respect to the veteran community, which is, a perspective necessarily we haven't covered on this podcast before. And so to hear that come up in everything, that, this organization is willing to help this organization if this organization can't do what this organization, it's kind of that we all got you type of feeling. And I think that's something unique. That's something that hopefully we can continue to kind of keep the ball rolling on and keep that energy going, because I think that is how we're making and affecting change here. The city feels different, and which is super, super exciting. And I'm so glad that you've noticed that, because that impact of organizations working together obviously increases the impact you have on those populations you serve. And those populations that you serve are high need, high touch, and honestly, once we get into it, I have lots of thoughts about.
Yeah,
I have lots of thoughts that I don't know if I shared with you the other day, and I'm really excited to kind of get into this conversation about what you do at the Coffee Bunker, and all of those things. I had the opportunity to, through my own through my own scheduling conflict, meet you at the Coffee Bunker on Wednesday. I'm kind of glad we shifted from Panera just so I got to see the place. But we're talking about where Robby works, and it's the Coffee Bunker on 41st and Sheridan, which is so funny. This is all, it's through my thoroughfare. I go through that area all the time, and have noticed, what the Coffee Bunker, like I wonder what that is. But then having the opportunity to get connected with you and then see it for myself, the services you guys provide, really, really, really amazing. And I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about what you do there and what the organization is all about.
Sure. But first, I'd like to ask, since it was your first visit,
Yes.
just at a unique time, we had the Puerto Rican coffee. You were able to try that. How was it? I'm not a coffee drinker, right? I'm a Red Bull guy. We talked about this. But did you enjoy the Puerto Rican coffee?
Oh, absolutely. It had me jazzed and wired for the rest of the day. That's exactly how I like it.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, I'm director of transition services out there at the Coffee Bunker, which is a broad term, and I understand that. But really, we want to make sure that every veteran's transition is successful, as well as their dependents and spouses, right? So we don't just limit our services to the veteran, but the family, because we understand that it's a unit and they work together, right? The spouse and the dependents have a vote too on where they're going, where they're coming. And so we try to be a full service wraparound thing. We offer many things, and everything's free of charge to the veterans and their spouses, such as whether it be legal listening, financial counseling, financial advice, disability claims and processing, how to get those increased or file that and get within the VA system. We work with OESC. So we do so much for the veteran community, as well as if you were to actually go there, Coffee Bunker, as you saw, we have a space for hanging out, socializing, connecting with one another in a sense of community. We do education and services for those people that need to use those benefits, as well as employment services and different things through that, such as resume writing, alliances that we work with corporations that have committed to be more than veteran friendly. Wow. Just so much, but we really want to be a one-stop shop where the veteran and their families can come and hang out, socialize, another community, as well as provide any resources we need or they may need at one location.
Yeah. That's amazing. I just want to read. I pulled up what you guys have on your website as what constitutes transition support, and I just going to read the whole list because I think it's really amazing. Assignment to a peer support specialist, professional guidance for education, employment, and for starting a business, job skills training, resume and interview prep, networking access to employers, women veteran resources, social activities, VA claims assistance, like you mentioned, healthcare resources, family relationship resources, chaplain services, food pantry, and housing referral. I mean, and I'd love for you to kind of tell that story too, that you mentioned to me the other day about like the final transition as well. Like is what we're getting at is like transition is really kind of this blanket term of kind of like helping veterans and their loved ones and their dependents, kind of transition back into what life is like after that experience, whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was, all of those, all the gamut of what it can be, essentially. You need that transition of what it's like back in civilian life, I guess, if for lack of a better term. But yeah, I think that final transition is what really got me.
Yes, sir. So again, like I said, and you just read off a litany of things that we offer, and we want to make sure that every stage of transition is successful for the veteran and their spouse and their dependents. And that ranges a whole host of things, like we mentioned. But one of the unique things, and we don't often publicize this or advertise this, but again, a unique thing with the veteran is when a veteran passes away, the Veterans Affairs will give a flag to the family. Okay. One of the programs that we have is we working with the social workers and people when we know a veteran is on hospice, nearing that final transition. We've decided that that's too late for the flag, right? So we want tears of joy instead of tears of sorrow. So we have a group that has generously donated some flags, and we have some chaplains that are with us, and they don't necessarily preach or do anything, but just more their expertise with compassion and caring. And some of us, we go out and we, obviously we've coordinated with the family and friends, and we present them their flag while they're still alive, with family, friends, and everyone else around them. We've had a tremendous outpouring of it. The families love it. Oftentimes, we'll see the veteran holding the flag close to their chest, and it has a huge positive impact on them. And just since September this year, I know that we've done 3 World War II veterans,
Wow.
which is, they're slowly fading off. And one of the gentlemen, John Woods, was 101 years old, still walking around.
Wow.
Just an amazing story. But I say that because I constantly hear the impact from the families months afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Just what it meant to them and the help that they received. And I also say that because I told you earlier, we help with spouses and dependents. So even widows, when they come in, they need help. How do I do our VA benefits now? What's the next step for us, right? And so we continue those services on even after the fact.
Yeah, I think that is so amazing. I want to just like highlight my like. I think it's an amazing program, and one thing like in particular that connects me to. It was so funny when I was at the Coffee Bunker. Like I think 2 or 3 people had asked me, "Oh, are you a veteran?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I do serve," which is the different thing. But I do have family members that have served, and in particular, my step grandfather and my grandfather on my mom's side. And I remember both of their funerals. They both have since passed away, but both of their funerals, like the way that the funeral procession was kind of set up was like essentially around the flag. Like the flag was something that was set up on a table to kind of like show and honor their service.
Right.
And in knowing both of them personally, that wasn't just like something they did at one point in their life. Their service to our country was entirely and wholeheartedly meaningful to their life experience. And, regardless of what my personal beliefs on like conflict globally are, that is something that I like absolutely feel, I would just say, I feel the utmost respect for veterans and what that choice that they make to serve our country and to, all of those things. And my own family members, I know that that's been something that's been huge in their life. And I wonder what it would have been like to see like them hugging that flag in some of their final moments, like what that could have been like. But I'm so glad to know that that's an opportunity that you guys provide to other families and folks.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you on behalf of all veterans, just for your acknowledgement and appreciation for what we do. It means a lot to us. And then, you really see in those moments or in different times when a veteran transitions, even when he's looking for a job or he's worried about, I'm going to be a veteran student, what do I do? And you see in those moments of, I don't want to say stress, but really sincere emotion coming out, right? And you guys see it in the different nonprofits, see it in their different aspects, but really you get to see the person as an individual and really that human experience that they're going through at that time. Yeah. And sometimes it's great. They come in and they say, "Hey guys, thanks for helping me get this job. I'm ready to go," or "I'm in school, ready to go get my degree," and all that. And then sometimes, they need help in as well. But just to really appreciate and take that moment to value that experience that we've all had, the ups and downs that come with it, really makes an impact for me.
Yeah. And just like one kind of other side story, I think something that really put into perspective for me kind of like how universal the veteran experience is essentially across different racial and ethnic backgrounds. I've been to, at this point, maybe 10 to 15 different powwows in like the past couple of years. And every time they do grand entry at a powwow, there is a POW MIA, like prisoner of war, missing in action flag, and the Eagle staff like is always honoring veterans. There's always like a space and a representative of those folks those folks that are missing in action or are prisoners of war, but also for the veterans. There's an acknowledgement of the veterans that are here with us, in the room or in our family members. I think what's so interesting is that that is a space where that acknowledgement feels so powerful. And I'm wondering, how do we, without overdoing it, or, inserting it into every space, but like, I feel like that respect for veterans only comes in those like moments, if we could really talk, we're going to get to a question that I'm really curious about your perspective on, but, I think a dominant narrative or something that I see in media and things like that is, a lot of houseless folks are veterans, which I know we're opening up a can of worms here, but like for the most part, even those two words together, like a veteran and houseless, they should never go together. It makes no sense to me. Fundamentally, the service to our country is only valued when it's being served, and then after, nothing. There's not nothing. There's this system that's supposed to help you, and I know I'm getting kind of a little bit of a pedestal or a soapbox here, but it is just something that like always hurts my heart to see and to hear and to not know what to do about it. We're not going to solve every crisis every week or whatever, but I do want to just open up that conversation a little bit, because it's so important to me. And of course, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that you bring that up, because I want to say a couple months ago, I saw a cartoon, and I want to say is from, on this part, don't quote me, but I want to say the New York Times. And it really highlighted that disparity that you mentioned. It had a caption of "on the battlefield," and everyone's like, "Oh, the soldier, sailor, marine, airman, space force." Very patriotic, and we're supporting them. And then the picture and caption next to it was the homeless veteran on the street.
Yeah.
So, which is such a disparity, because many of our veterans come in and they're integrated into our community, they're contributing successfully, and they've just really embraced it. But because, it's often, you highlight the two differences, you forget the crowd in the middle. So
yeah, absolutely.
I say that to make an illustration that a lot of people do successfully integrate and do that, but we do see that disparity.
Yeah.
To combat that, one of the things we do is we have SSVF, which comes into the Coffee Bunker, and they help veterans, homeless veterans, get housing and get established. And then we work them as well as getting employment to try to improve their situation. Yeah. Now, I will say, and this will probably get me a lot of flack.
Oh, yes, we love it. Start the conversation. Comfortably, of course.
Everyone is where they are today because of their own decisions and actions that they've made. Unfortunately, actions have consequences, and then we do have to acknowledge that and take responsibility for that. Yeah. That being said, some homeless veterans are in there because of the decisions and actions they've made, and I don't want to make that sound like that is okay and excusable for whatever they did.
Yeah,
poor decision making, but that doesn't mean we're not here to help them get started and get back on track and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And part of that is, like we said, we have the group that helps the homeless veterans get back. We help with employment and things like that. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier, I think is key, is that connection in that community. Yeah. So in addition to that, I told you in the bunker, which you saw the other day, we have that area where people hang out. We have that peer support table. We want people, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, color, service, rank, to feel welcome. Yeah. And in that, we have the peer connection table, which is a group of veterans, males, females, different services, all that are going to welcome the veterans and purely make sure that they feel embraced and loved is not the right term, but welcomed.
Yeah.
And they're not going to ask them about their situation unless they bring it up and do that. So to your point of what do we do with the homeless veterans, there are many programs out there that we try to connect them with to do it. Yeah. We try to help them on the employment side. We also have OESC, the Disabled Veteran Outreach Program, that comes in. And we then, again, provide a community and a place to connect, as well as compassion for them. So we try to address it from multiple levels. Do we think we're making an impact? Yes. Is it as big of an impact as we would like to make? No. But I do appreciate you acknowledging that and the concern for that. And we're doing our best. And I think there's many organizations that are rallying around that aspect and trying to help these guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just want to be clear too. Like my observation or anything is not at all what's the word I'm looking for? It's not to point out what you guys are and aren't doing. It's really just like a societal thing. You
No,
know what
but
I mean?
it's a very real observation,
Yeah.
and you're not I hear that quite a bit. And again, it's just that because disparities highlight and they easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
Make great photos and things like that. And then we also see the, guy on the street. I was a veteran, right?
Yeah.
And if you ever do that, I always say refer them to the Coffee Bunker. If you ask, all public transit's free to veterans right now, so they can get to us and we can help them as well.
That's awesome.
So, which is just a recent deal. So thank you to the city of Tulsa for allowing veterans to ride public transit for free. And then we can assist them and do that. But again, that's what most people see. You don't see often the guy that's going to work every day, right? Because they're just doing their daily lives and things. So it's just an easy highlight. But again, thank you for being real and honest about it, because it's a very common observation.
Yeah, and it's an observation that I've had the opportunity to travel, and you don't just see the houseless veterans in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You see them in California and LA. You see them in Alaska. You can see them in any urban city. That experience, that experience is unfortunately universal, and so that means it's a systemic issue. And your organization is an organization that is directly impacting that systemic issue. But how do we change the system? So that's essentially where I'm getting at with even some of my more pointed opinions.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. But we also have to realize what we can control in our own sphere of influence. And through that,
Absolutely.
Part of our deal is not just resourcing the veteran at any level or any stage of transition, but also educating them in awareness, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't do me any good to resource you and facilitate for you, but then you can't do it on your own, whether that be resume writing, getting a job, interview skills, whatever the case may be. And that's where we try to do our best too, is to set you up for future endeavors, that you have that skill set as well.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem. What we can control in our little area is resourcing and education and training, again, at all levels of transition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in kind of moving on from this conversation, but kind of attached to it, I think I'd love to ask you this question, kind of about just more broadly, speaking of like spheres of influence, what is an opportunity for improvement that would better serve the broader veteran population in Tulsa? What is something that we as a community of nonprofits or, private citizens, or what can something as big as the city do to address kind of not maybe sweeping, or what's just one way you kind of could see an opportunity for improvement?
Okay. So one of the things that I see an opportunity for improvement is, we go back to the Leadership Tulsa connection. We are hosting a Leadership Tulsa Coffee Bunker collaboration on January 26th that's open to veterans and their spouses, which is going to do some professional development, education, vision casting, leading teams, networking, and different skill sets. So we're super excited about that. And Leadership Tulsa has been fantastic working with us, and we're so pleased for that. So I would say for the city and just in general, just again, be aware of our programs, like our social media, our LinkedIn pages, and just, you may not be a veteran yourself, but you may know of a veteran that would benefit from that program, or someone that could use that to further their skills or their area. Always donations and support are fantastic, volunteers, right? But I know that there's so many nonprofits out there. So give your time anywhere. It's appreciated, whether it's at the Coffee Bunker or any other organization. It's valued and appreciated. But yeah, so things like that, like we're highlighting that. And I just say that because, again, you never know who may need that or who would benefit from that. So that's our current initiative going into 2024. So yeah, just spreading the word and staying in touch with us as well. And I think too, we want to add value back to everyone, right? We don't want to be purely receiving. We want to give back to our community as well. And so for any of the listeners or people that watch this, if you see a way that we could help you or add value to community or talk to a particular group, let us know.
Yeah.
Because you are our community at large as well, and we're here to serve.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And I think a perspective I'll throw in there. And I don't love to directly address a specific audience or even directly address like a generation, but I'm kind of in this like Gen Z millennial like weird middle ground where maybe I can address both of them. But something that I feel like I want to challenge folks in my generation and just the younger generation of folks to do is the veteran population, or I guess just even more broadly, we are so privileged as Americans to not have conscription military service. It is a choice for anyone to make that decision, and it's a choice many people don't make.
Right.
And so, in your acknowledgement of like the privilege of the choice to, whether or not you serve in our military, yes, acknowledge that is your experience, and you don't have to do it. But how can you at the same time be a support system or create some type of outreach or do something for that community? That would be my challenge to anyone that is on the other side of that decision. I personally haven't decided, and probably won't in my life since it as long as it stays a choice to serve my country in that way. But that doesn't mean I don't care about veterans. That doesn't mean I don't care about the people that give their lives for this country, and for the people that go and serve and come back and have a great experience. And of course we celebrate them. That doesn't mean I don't care about the people that come and that have a terrible experience and end up with the need for services like that you provide as transitions and things like that. Finding a way to do something to acknowledge that the privilege of that choice. It would be my challenge to, I guess it really is to anyone listening, because it's not just something for my generation, but I do feel like my generation has been really removed from, God willing, like large scale conflicts like World War II, or like, those things where it was pretty much everybody
Right.
for a certain amount of time. And now it's kind of just been over the past couple of decades, just like a select few. I don't know. That's my honest thoughts.
Yeah, I like where you're going with it, and I appreciate the sentiment. I would expand it to say, I'm biased towards the veteran community, but serve in some way, some capacity, whether it's a volunteer hour here or there, or even if it's and I'm not saying just to me, to any organization, to anyone in the city, if you find a way to serve in some, but whether it's even writing a thank you card to someone that the Boy Scouts that do the mile road and pick it up. So serving in any capacity, and too often we think it's like, I'm going to give 8 hours on a Saturday and I'm going to be, in this case, cold and miserable and rainy, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that scale. So just serve your fellow people, your fellow Tulsans, your community in any way you can.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm always biased to the veteran community. So if you want to help us anyway, we'd love to have that. But even little gestures, just saying thank you to the people that are doing things makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I'll just go back to one point that you made kind of about that peer connection, or the table where
the connection table.
The connection table. Something that you mentioned to me the other day when we met was that the conversation is not how was your service?
Yeah.
What was that like? And even that narrative shift is like something that's important, because you're acknowledging that not everyone's experience is universally good,
right,
or universally bad necessarily, but I think that we as an American population have kind of come around to mental health being something we should take care of, and something we should be keeping in check. And if we're talking about things that have afflicted a population for decades, generations, whatever, military and war trauma is huge. PTSD is not something that just happens for no reason.
Right.
Basically, people without conflict experience have PTSD from things like that, and so
Right.
the language shift is huge. And so I think approaching those conversations with folks with empathy, And, you know, maybe keeping some of your curiosity in check too would be another bit of advice that I might give, because as curious as you might be about, you know, what was Fallujah like in 2001 or whatever, it's like, that might not be a positive experience for someone. And how can you, you know, I guess, support someone through whatever they're currently going through, instead of, you know, almost like forcing them to live in the past or live into this, some like glory days or whatever. I don't know if that's a perspective that you
right.
share, but
so I would say, you know, I always got to caveat this. You know, I'm not a counselor, I can't do anything, but from my experience and what we've found is, one, be there, right? As you converse and talk to people, you'll see how their willingness to open up and do different things, right? Just we've all had enough conversations in our life. You'll be receptive to that. The one thing I would say is, if they do decide to open up to you, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Just be patient, listen. That doesn't mean you have to give all the answers or you have to solve the world's problems at that point, but really just be an ear and empathetic to the situation.
Yeah.
And I think it'll take care of itself. But yeah, do those conversations. Everyone will kind of gauge the level and things like that. And as you mentioned, PTSD, trauma, depression. Right now, men's mental health is huge. With
huge.
Darius Rucker, he's got his advertisement out, which has been neglected for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's not just, again, the veteran world. It's a people thing, the human experience thing. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I think it's undervalued a lot of times.
Yeah.
So just be there and know that people have challenges and difficulties and celebrations, and just be ready for when they open up to you about that, and either encourage them or support them in whatever way you can.
Absolutely. Robby, let's wrap up this conversation. I'd love for you to kind of just share with our audience, you know, what are some ways that they can get involved with your organization, whether it's volunteer or supporting financially? What are some ways that people can get involved?
So the easiest way is go to www.coffeebunker.org. In there will be a form, and you can either donate if you want to, or you can request to volunteer for different things that we have, and in what capacity, what would you like to do. If you're able to, again, like I said, always go to our Facebook page. We have 2 LinkedIn pages, and perhaps if I give that to you, you could put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And again, just the click of a button, right, to like us and then follow us. And then even if you're not a veteran, again, if you see something, oh, hey, I may know a guy that could benefit, just share it and pass it along. That's the most passive and easiest way you can support us, and we love that. Yeah. And any other way, if you go to, again, www.coffeebunker.org, there's other opportunities.
Awesome. Robby, thank you so much for being on this episode of Grow With Us. I really, really appreciate your candor, your conversation, and everything that you guys do at the Coffee Bunker. And we're so excited to support it and highlight it.
Thank you. And thank you for all you guys do. You really make an impact in Tulsa.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Grow With Us. Grow With Us is supported by In Tulsa Initiatives. If you're interested in learning more about In Tulsa services for job placement and workforce development, please visit talent.intulsa.com. From there, you can join our talent network, where you'll get access to our newsletter, and our talent team will make sure we put the right opportunities on your radar. We put the choice to pursue a new career and opportunities in your hands. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when more episodes of Grow With Us are released. Let us know what you think about how we're doing by rating and reviewing. It really helps. Grow With Us is edited and engineered by Rant9 Productions and Jesse Ulrich. This has been Grow With Us.